Hey, nice to meet you face to face here, Vince.
Same here. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, well, welcome to Dysfunctional Dialogue. I got with me Vince August. So, Vince, you
Pleasure to
got
be here.
yourself one heck of a background for coming into comedy. I mean,
It's a
that's just incredible.
yeah,
How did that? That's amazing what you did.
yeah. It's a wild story that the media really screwed up once I
Oh,
got the news notoriety because they were under the impression that when I was brought up by the Attorney General's office on this case of I'm a judge, I'm a lawyer, I'm a comedian, I'm an actor. The media thought that I was first a judge and then I decided I want to try comedy, and that's not what
oh,
happened at all.
oh,
Um, you know,
okay,
yeah, I
interesting.
wanted to do comedy since I was a kid,
Yeah.
but when you grow up in an immigrant household, that's not a real job. So yeah,
No, it's not. It's not.
no, no. So I suppressed it and went
Yeah.
about going to high school, wanted to enlist. The recruiter actually talked me out of it, which was weird because he saw my grades. He's like, "What are you doing here?" Then my uncle,
Oh,
who
yeah.
served in Vietnam, said, "You try to enlist, I'm going to shoot you in the foot. You're not going to make it because of
That's a
what
good
he went
uncle.
through." Yeah. And then after law school, when I took the bar exam, I'm like, I got to give this a shot.
Yeah.
And I did. And I got success. I mean, relative success, meaning there was someone there from another club that booked me. And then I went to that club and I kept getting booked. So that's what I mean by success. And yeah, I hid my law career and my comedy career from each other.
Yeah, that's
So I didn't tell
incredible.
anybody in my family that I was doing comedy. I didn't tell anyone in the law I was doing comedy.
Yeah.
And similarly, I didn't tell anyone in comedy what my day job was.
And I saw you actually had done like I don't even know, like a couple few minute bit talking about how you wonder about going on stage if you're going to die on stage. Well, you were literally concerned about dying on stage, you
Well,
know?
so yeah, I made a joke about it, and people of course, the internet goes crazy with it. But one of the things that I tried to explain is, and that's why I made a joke of it, is you have
Yeah.
to understand, I was dealing with really high profile criminal cases.
Yeah.
And we had racketeering cases, not like stuff you see on The Sopranos. We had real racketeering
Yeah,
cases.
yeah, yeah. I'm sure you
And
were yeah. Yeah.
we had murder cases, we had all kinds of stuff. And if clients thought or knew or suspected you were spending your
Oh,
nights running around the city doing comedy spots, they would be like, hey, maybe this guy shouldn't be representing me. So I had to hide it from clients. I had to hide it from
yeah.
my boss because
Yeah.
I didn't think my boss would appreciate what I was doing at night. So it was one of those things where I didn't want to like let clients know, my boss know that I was doing this, because then it's like,
Yeah.
well, are you taking this serious? What is the thing that you want to do most? And I just happen to
Right.
enjoy doing both of them.
Yeah, and I mean, I have a day job, but I'm not practicing law, so there's
Yeah.
really not a whole lot of conflict. I'm not altogether concerned with how I'm managing my day, with having a little fun, talking to friends, talking to family, talking to whoever else wants to come on, just having a fun conversation.
Yeah.
And I'm all about I mean, just obviously there's so much mess out there, right? And I just want to have a little bit of something for me and for whoever else wants to hop in here where they can go in and have a little bit of a respite from that mess. Just
Yeah.
something, not thinking too hard about stuff and just kind of playing around and having some fun.
Well, the interesting thing is a lot of people, because I have this dual background, a lot of people want me to comment on legal cases. And my answer to that is, look, you got to understand, I'm a legit lawyer. I was a
Right.
judge for 6 years. And when a case is going on in the
Yeah.
media and you're just getting snippets, you have no idea what's going on in a courtroom. Now, there
Absolutely.
are
Yeah.
certain points that come across in the news, like the case that was happening up in Massachusetts with that woman who allegedly ran over her husband. I don't know why I'm drawing a blank
Oh,
on it.
right. Yeah. Yeah.
Like I heard stuff in that case where I'm like, no, they're not going to get her. I heard
Oh,
stuff in the Diddy trial where I'm like, this is not racketeering. The
hmm,
racketeering is
interesting.
gone. So there are certain things that I hear that I'm like, yeah. But at the same time, when you're not in there, you're not hearing all the facts, you're not hearing all the evidence.
Yep.
You can't. It's malpractice to comment on something
Hey,
because you don't
Vince,
know what the
but
hell's going on.
those are good words for anybody. everyone is so quick to jump to a conclusion.
Yeah.
Everyone is so quick to put someone up on a pedestal or knock someone off of that pedestal just because of a little soundbite they heard. It's ridiculous. I mean, you have to go
Everybody
out of your
wants to be
way.
first. That's what it is.
Yeah.
They don't want to
Yep.
be right. They want to be first.
No.
Yeah.
Yes. Not the way to, that's not a good way to go through life the way I see it.
And I
For
tell
sure.
people, just sometimes you got to listen.
Yeah.
Don't be so quick to talk.
Yeah,
Listen.
no doubt.
You're going to
Yep.
learn a lot more from listening than you are from talking, especially if you don't
Yep.
know what's going on. But, everybody and the funny thing that people are doing now is because seemingly everyone has a podcast, if you jump in right away, if you get lucky and you guess right, you're a genius. If you
Yeah.
jump in right away, you guess wrong. Well, I didn't know about the other part that came out after the fact. And, so everyone has that cover.
Yeah.
The other thing is, I think the thing that really changed our society is this medium and phones and Instagram. Everyone is the star of their own show.
Yeah.
And they can hide under the cover of, I was just making a joke. Look, I do funny podcasts. I was being funny about it. And it's like, man, we got to be careful with this,
You got to know where to draw the line. You have to know, like I always say, you have to know to your audience, but obviously your audience is much larger now because you never know who's going to hop on here. And there's going to be things that are said, and I've said this before previously. If I ended up saying anything and any one of my audience doesn't appreciate, look, I'm sorry. I'm telling you right now, it comes from a good heart. Sometimes there's a bit of a disconnect, but I go out of my way not to do the opposite, to just bring a little fun into people's lives and not.
But I'm gonna tell you where everything in my mind went sideways. It wasn't the escalator ride up or down the stairs. It was when he beat her, and it was everyone that was with her was so offended because it was her turn. Period.
Mhm.
End. That's all this
Mhm.
was. This was a coronation of Hillary Clinton and a guy that I don't even think at first really wanted to win. I think he was promoting a book. I think he was
I think he was
promoting a
promoting himself, his
show.
brand,
Yeah, he was
100%.
promoting his brand.
Yep.
And then he kind of got caught up in this thing.
Yep.
And look, so did CNN. So did
Yes, he
NBC.
certainly did.
Everybody got caught up in it. And
Yep.
then when it happened, it was he
What do I
did
do?
this. And it's like, no,
Yeah.
people
No, we
didn't
all
like
did it.
her.
Yeah.
And now we're stuck with him. And then that became everything that he did. What do we have, John? We have a copycat society. So it was like,
We do.
oh,
Oh,
that's
100%.
what works. We're all going to
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, you're emulating the thing that you don't like.
Yeah.
What makes you any different now? And with him, there's no apology. It's
Right. And if
no, I never
everyone's
said it.
mimicking that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's just not apologetic. So now
Right.
we're in a place where no one apologizes.
Yep.
And
Yep.
and that's the problem. That's
Yeah,
that's
I think
yeah.
as what tends to happen is that the pendulum swings and stuff like that. I suspect there'll be a breath of fresh air that comes in where someone's going to have a different tact, maybe a more traditional tact approaching it. And it'll be like, okay, now then people maybe steer toward that person. But the short of it is, you nailed it. I mean, these folks are just lighting fires as they're going along, and they're the ones getting the hits, right?
Yeah.
So, and because they're the one getting the hits, and because those algorithms are following each of us to
Right.
feed us things, we're just going further and further down into these rabbit holes, which is, particularly
And
unhealthy.
that's what I think has killed entertainment is the algorithm. Because
Yeah,
what
that's it.
happened in entertainment is rather than people trying to come up with good content, people are trying to beat an algorithm. So it's
Right.
I have to feed this monster that is the algorithm
Yep.
because otherwise no one's going to hear of me. So what do people do? They look at the trends, they look at all the hashtags, they look at what's going
Yep.
strong. And it's,
Yep.
oh, I'm going to do something about that. And then it
Yeah.
becomes this weird clickbait,
Mhm.
like headline of you'll never guess what Joy Behar said. And meanwhile, you watch the video and there's nothing there. And it's
That's
just,
exactly right. It's just a
yeah,
quick clip, and if you look at what happened before and what happened after, it's a nothing.
it's a nothing.
Yeah.
9 out of 10 times, it's all or nothing.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you have the people out there that had clout beforehand that now bring name brand recognition.
Yep.
And what are they going to do, John? What are they going to be moderate? No, they take an extreme side because they know the extreme side. Again, this goes
Yeah.
back to the guy who originally started all of this, Howard Stern. What did we learn from Howard Stern? Why do people listen? Because they hate what he says and they can't wait to hear what he says next. They love what he says. They can't wait to hear what he says next. So people are watching for both reasons. We got
They
it the
are.
same way with the Kardashians. Why do
Yeah.
people watch the Kardashians? Because they love the Kardashians? No, they want to see the train crash.
You go back even further than that. Remember Howard Cosell on Monday Night Football? I mean, some people loved him, some people were different, and some people hated him. But
Yeah.
he had enough of an interest across the entire spectrum that people tuned in. At least, I personally was never tuning in for an announcer, but you'd have that. There's a sect
Oh,
of the
yeah.
population. Hey, so you said immigrant household, immigrant background.
Yes.
I saw that you have some Sicilian in you.
100%. So both of my
Very
parents,
cool.
born and raised there. My first language here was probably more Italian and Sicilian dialect than it was English. I had to really learn English in school because, when you have parents that grow up in a foreign country,
Yep.
you're not getting Dr. Seuss in the house.
You're
That's just not
not.
where, they grew up during a war. Literally, World War II was
Yeah.
happening in their backyard.
Yeah.
So yeah, there was none of that. In fact, I tell people the story. I learned about some of the childhood stories, like Little Red Riding Hood, the Three Bears, from Bugs Bunny's version of those stories
Oh, that's
because we never had
awesome.
the books.
I love that your education, Vince, was Bugs Bunny. It kind
Yeah.
of explains a lot because, first of all, Bugs Bunny was some smart humor, right? So you had that. So you had your steering into education because it was smart humor, but it's
Right.
humor. So you had the steering into comedy.
Well, what a lot of people don't realize with the original cartoons like Bugs Bunny, and a lot of those people all started out together, whether they
Yeah.
worked for
Yeah.
Walt and then eventually started and then branched off and did their own thing. What people don't realize is these were actors that were doing voiceovers
Yeah.
in adult skits. So some of the subject matter is racy or very
to say the
above
least.
kids' heads.
Yeah, the double entendres were spectacular.
Yes.
Because, and there was some stuff that didn't even bother with the double entendre. They just went
No.
ahead and hit you over the head with it, which is amazing. And these little kids were sitting there watching this. And
You had no idea what you were watching, but it was entertaining. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm 100% Irish.
Okay.
But I married 100% Sicilian.
Oh,
My wife family's from outside of Palermo.
and you've never won an argument since.
That's about right.
I don't think the Irish can yell as loud as we do.
No, for sure. No, we might laugh as loud as the yelling, but
Yes. But you're a
That's for
Jersey
sure.
guy originally, no?
I am. So when
Yeah.
I grew up in Elma Park, and you were over in Hackensack, is that correct?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
During
the
70s.
Well, yeah, 70s. We're the same age, Vince.
Yeah.
I looked you up a little bit. I saw a couple of things. I actually don't like to prep for these things too much. I find the raw going into it just to be more fun for me anyway. Hopefully it is
You
for
get
you and
surprised by
others.
answers.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Yeah, grew up in Hackensack, lived in Hackensack till 83. So when I went to high school, my family moved to Paramus. They were not sending me to Paramus High School because they were a little bit worried about, me getting into maybe some trouble here and there. So they sent me to a Catholic school. I said, I will not do the uniform. So I refused to go to Bergen Catholic. So Paramus Catholic at the time had a school. It was boys on one side, girls on the other, with literally a wall separating us, as you remember.
Many of my good friends went to PC.
Yep.
My dad taught there, possibly while you were there. And I went to Bosco.
Okay.
So that's real interesting. So
83
the odds
to 87, I was there.
Right, and I would have been 84. I'm sorry, no, 83. Oh, you are younger than me then. I was in high school from 80 to 84.
Yeah, I was 83 to 87.
I didn't do enough research on you, apparently. See?
Yeah.
So at some point, other than this, we could talk a little bit about some of the commonalities, some of the people we might have known and stuff. But one of the things I wanted to talk to you about was because we grew up right around the same time. We grew up relatively in the same area.
Yeah.
We have some definite things that we have done. And one of the things I like to talk about is how stupid we were as kids,
Oh
right? Which
God.
is a lot of fun to talk about
Yeah.
because I mean, particularly guys, boys. I mean, I didn't
Yeah.
I didn't stop doing stupid stuff until I was well into my 20s. I didn't do law school AQ. I kept on doing stupid stuff for a while, and they actually say that a male's brain doesn't entirely form until like well into his 20s. I'm still waiting for mine to form, frankly, just to
Yeah.
be clear.
There's no doubt
But
about it.
so do you have anything from your childhood that pops into mind when I
Oh, without a
say,
doubt. Yeah.
yeah,
So we had this hill that was on Route 80. So
yeah,
Route 80 cut Hackensack and South Hackensack in
that's
half.
right, yeah, yep,
And there was this one point where the hill by Hudson Street was
yeah,
really steep. So Route 80 was an overpass, and then there was a hill that came down. And up
okay,
the block, there was factories. So
yeah,
we
wow,
were, we would always hang out over there, and they would have these boxes that they would throw out. So one summer, bored out of our minds because my parents worked, both parents worked, so we never went down the shore. We grabbed these sheets of cardboard and we went sledding down the hill
I
on
love it,
cardboard in the summer. And we
yeah,
wound up calling it Cardboard Hill.
I
Now,
love that,
Cardboard Hill starts at Route 80, which is an interstate highway. So you'd have to traverse the edge of this bridge to get to the top of this highway. Then
yeah,
you were on the shoulder of an interstate highway. And back then, you had tractor trailers. Cars were
oh,
boats. They were literally boats. Pontiac Catalina was about 80 feet
oh
long.
yeah,
Yeah,
right,
and made of steel that you saw the Intrepid was made out of.
yeah,
So we were
that's
standing
right,
on the side, and then you would slide down this hill, and
yeah,
the hill ended in a chain link fence with barbed wire on the top. So
like a strainer,
yeah. So what is the backstop? The fence. So and the thing was, you wanted to slide down all the way to the fence because then you made it down the hill. So
yes,
if you
yeah,
landed short of the fence, you failed. So the goal
absolutely.
was hit the fence.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, I
cardboard
talked.
hill.
I love that cardboard. I talked about the magic cardboard box that we would have. Someone would throw out would have a new
Oh,
refrigerator delivered. It'd be a
yes.
cardboard box, and my friends and I talked about this in one of the podcasts. We hop in it, and first we start doing these different things, but then we ended up going down this one hill off
Yep.
of a 4-foot wall, and you get out and you run around. Hey, all right, let's do it again.
So back then we made what were I guess called goat carts. Um,
Yeah,
and mind you, we were not the smartest kids to make a goat cart. We didn't exactly have engineering degrees.
yeah,
So we would get if we found like a refrigerator box, that was gold.
yeah,
Because then what we would do is try to find a plank of wood to mount the box on. And it was okay. Now this thing needs wheels.
yeah,
And
yeah,
we're not thinking in terms of axles. We're not thinking in terms of, we're thinking, how do we mount wheels on this thing any
yeah,
which way? And no
yeah.
matter how we did it, it was a disaster. And
Right.
then the thing became having somebody with a bike pull it, and then you would be in the back of this thing like a wagon, and then it would end in disaster. It would end in disaster because,
Absolutely.
again, you wanted to find a hill to roll
Yep.
down and see how far you could go. Like the other,
I love
oh
that.
my God, one of the other hills, I think it was Standish Avenue in Hackensack that we literally used to sleigh ride down. And when I say sleigh, we didn't have
Yeah.
sleds. We would literally get like garbage can covers
Yeah,
and
yeah,
go
yeah.
down this thing. And this one didn't have a backstop. The backstop was Paddlefly Road. So you just hope there was no traffic
Damn.
coming because it was snowing. Maybe, people stayed home that day. It was insane what we did. And
Yeah.
our
There was
parents
this.
just
Yeah.
watched us.
Oh yeah. Or if even it was pretty much how it was, and we all talked
Yeah.
about it. All of us, all those older folks always talking about, to come home when the lights come on, the street lights come on, that kind
But
of thing.
John, think of a year you went to school, grammar school, maybe even through high school, where a kid didn't come in wearing a white cast
Yes,
that everybody would
absolutely.
sign. Every year.
That doesn't happen anymore.
No.
Now they
Every
all
year
have.
somebody was breaking something.
Yeah. Now they all have carpal tunnel now.
No, every year somebody was breaking something,
Yeah.
and you're almost jealous of the kid that broke his arm because you didn't have something to sign. They did, so you were
So
signing their arm and not yours.
you're making me flood with a bunch of stories. First of all, the hill. So I actually had a flexible flyer. It wasn't mine. I was the fifth of six kids. It was a big family. We didn't have much money,
Irish.
but at some point, I mean, we had almost nothing, frankly. And we went into Patterson, right across the river in
Oh
Patterson.
yeah.
It was the hill behind Patterson Catholic, I think is what
Yep.
it was. And back then, there were just tons of trees back there and
Yep.
stuff. I think it was there. Man, it might not have been there. We used to always go over to sleigh riding, but there was one other place we went to maybe
Garrett
littered with
Mountain probably.
pine trees, and the flexible fire. The best way to do it is face forward. You want to be
Yes.
face down. You want to
Yeah.
go into it, and you want to kind of give it these. You had a little bit of steering capabilities, and man, we took this hill like a slalom course. I mean, there were trees everywhere, going inside, outside of these trees. It was the best.
It was probably Garrett Mountain or one of those hills
It
over
could have
there.
been. It could have been.
Yeah.
It could have been. That's a good thought. And then you mentioned the cast. So there's one guy I had gotten a cast, and we all had different things broken and stuff like that. I don't know how many fingers I must have broken as a
Oh
kid,
yeah.
And I never got a cast on them. They grew back. But one guy I remember we'd always play. Well, what would you call the game where you all got together? You had a football or a ball or something like that, and you would kill the guy with the ball, and
That
then
was
he would
it.
have to
Kill the
talk.
man with the ball.
Kill the
Literally.
man with the ball. We called it that or fumble tackle. I mean, the whole premise of that game was spectacular. Kill the man
Yeah.
with the ball. You would carry the ball. For whoever's not familiar with it, whoever had the ball, you carry it, and you'd be on a very limited area, and everyone else, their job is to tackle you while you
That's
went
it.
ahead and avoided them. And then once they dropped you to the ground, you had to give the ball up, and then everyone dove for it because they wanted to be the guy that owned the ball to get the shit kicked out of them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. But
And I remember one guy had a cast.
Even
Yeah.
when we played basketball at Columbus Park, we'd play this game where it was one on everybody.
Oh, that's
So
cool.
you would just get the ball, everyone would try to cover you or rebound your miss. And it was whoever could get to 15 points the fastest. So you had one of two strategies: sit under the rim and wait for a rebound, hope to grab it, go back because you had to dribble past the foul line back, shoot,
Yeah.
score, or
Love it.
cover the guy who had the ball, hope for a steal, turn around, shoot. But this is the stuff that fine-tunes skills too,
Oh, absolutely, it does.
because
Yep.
it turns you into a really good athlete.
It does. It does, and it also makes you think quicker on your feet. It
No doubt.
toughens you up a little bit. If it doesn't destroy you, it toughens you up a little bit. You
Yeah.
know. You know.
And then we did the stuff that was idiotic. So we had a flagpole in Columbus Park, and when they would take the flag down, the rope would hang, and it was like a 3-tiered. So the first tier was like a ring around this flagpole, and then there was a smaller tier than the flagpole. So we
Okay.
would climb up on the second tier, and
Yeah.
what you would do is run with the rope around the flagpole and then jump and try to swing around the pole. But here's what happens eventually: the rope catches the pole, and you smash into the pole if you don't jump off. And where are you going to jump? Because at that point, you were a good 5 feet off the ground.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that.
These were the games we played. Yeah.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt about it. We definitely had a very similar childhood in that regard because I mean that's all we did was fine because you were filling up space. You were just going out and you're having fun. You weren't constantly being fed stimuli. You made your own stimuli and you came up with made you creative. That's another byproduct of that kind of thing where you just go out into the world and you do, right?
Well, I mean, did you guys do clubhouses? So we had clubhouses.
We didn't really. So
Yeah.
we built the occasional fort, but it was
Yep.
just like a little thing that would last for a little while. We once did one where there was a construction site and they had a whole bunch of dirt that was dug there. We dug a bunch of tunnels through. It was so dangerous, and would be hanging out in there and stuff like that. This giant pile of dirt with no structure support. We so easily could have been buried alive. Finally, the woman across the street, thankfully, ended up coming by and smashing it when we weren't in there.
Yeah, we would grab the pallets that would hold whatever there was a shipment of going to one of the major factories, and we'd steal a pallet. And every time we could grab a pallet, it would be great because now what you're doing is you're stacking up these pallets, and then we would look for tarps. So grab whatever was waterproof, and then we would create like a roof, and eventually this thing became a clubhouse. And then we would get boxes or whatever, and this is where we would keep anything that we had that we wanted to hide from parents. So back then,
cool.
forget it.
Right.
I mean, young guy, if you could find a Playboy magazine, oh,
Oh
Put it
yeah,
in the
yeah. We had our
clubhouse.
places that were hiding
Yeah.
things for sure. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. We had our little patches of woods, little things where things would be hidden. My son actually built a legitimate survival structure with a couple of his friends in Dunkerhook along the Saddle River County Park system,
Yep.
where they literally took twigs and all these different things from around the area and clay and built the sides. I mean, he's an engineer, so he was always had an engineer mind. Right in this little section of thicker woods, and no one knew it was even there for quite a while, which is
Yeah.
kind of fun. Yeah,
Things we did because we were outside all the time, and then
yeah,
the video games came along in the 80s, um, and arcades came along.
yep,
But here was the thing: not everyone got into it.
that's right.
It wasn't like where everyone did it.
Yep.
Because the other part of that was if you played arcade games, it was a quarter. And,
Mm,
if you had money back then, it was, well, what are you going to spend it on? So if you
yeah,
had, like me, if I had a couple of bucks, I bought cards, hockey
right.
cards, tops,
Yeah,
baseball cards, whatever. I was
yeah, yeah,
collecting cards. So I had all sports cards.
yeah,
Other kids would play video games. So
yeah. I would hang out there sometimes with the other kids playing the games, but
yeah,
I wouldn't be spending time dumping
no,
money in
but
there and
you had
stuff.
to pick and choose because
Yeah,
you didn't. It wasn't an all. It was a
yeah,
one or nothing. You know.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess with immigrant parents, and my guess is that you probably did not grow up with any amount of comfort, we'll just say, or
No,
wealth.
so we lived over a bakery. So my parents owned a bakery. So during the
Oh,
summer, because we owned this wholesale retail bakery,
if I'm going to stop you there right there for a
yeah,
second. There's almost no doubt that your family knows my wife's family.
probably. So we had
No,
Fischini's Bakery in Hackensack.
Fragali's
Yes, in
in
Garfield.
that is my wife's family's place.
So
Fragali's.
when we sold the bakery, my family sold the bakery, we bought a deli grocery store in Paramus called Vesuvio, and we had all of our bread come from Fragali's.
How about that?
So your
Yeah.
your family, your wife's family definitely knows our
Yeah.
family
In
without
fact,
question.
yeah. So they grew up and they all came in the Garfield area.
Yep.
So they would know all of the people from that club, the San Siro
Oh
club,
God,
for
yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
They'd watch
fun.
the soccer games every weekend.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fun, Vince. How about that? That's
Yeah.
quite the
No,
connection that
New
we uncovered
Fragali's
there.
well. Then there
Yeah.
was Lodi Modern Bakery in
Yeah.
Lodi, which had the auto mechanic shop next door, which was the for I don't know if you remember what the hell was it called? Was it Bajika or something like that? And we would come out of there was Chicago's and Lodi was a
Okay.
bar club there, and
Oh
we
yeah, I
would
remember
come
that
out
place.
of
Yep.
there.
Hmm. Yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
and it was near Sorrento's Bakery,
Yep.
and
Yeah.
and we would come out of there at like 1 in the morning, and you would see the saw going in this auto body shop, and we're like, it's a chop shop. It's got to be who's sawing cars in 1989.
Let's hope it was cars.
Yeah, because back then there was a lot of that going on.
Yeah, a good friend of mine was. He grew up in that. How do I say it? I'm sure you're familiar with the Iceman.
Yes, my
Well,
first boss represented him before he went
oh
to the public
really?
defender. Frank Luciana
Yeah,
represented the Iceman. Ted Kuklinski, right? Something
that sounds
Kuklinski.
right. Yeah, that sounds
Yeah,
right. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Yeah, my friend was friends with his son,
yeah.
and they would be hanging out by that guy's house, and he would show up with a case of beer and just give it to these kids, these like
Nobody knew.
preteens or teens or whatever, and nobody knew
Nobody
anything.
knew. Nobody
Yeah,
knew. In fact, when he finally got found out, so my boss, Frank Luciano, winds up representing him. And I want to say at some point during the representation, he's like, you know what? Screw it. He goes with the public defender because he just wants to go to jail
yeah,
because he has this, I don't know if you want to call it bout of consciousness or whatever, but it's like, look, it's time for me to pay the piper for all of the things I've done and
yeah.
goes to jail happily. And then, the question becomes, how does he die in jail all those years later? Because he had the thing with Sammy the Bull Gravano
Oh, yes, I did.
about who killed that trooper in Saddle River.
Right. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. There's
Wild
some
story.
yeah, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. Yeah, this has been a blast there, Vince. I'm so glad that Willie hooked. I was thinking with Willie, so we have a mutual friend, and he said, I think you guys would hit it off pretty well. Why don't you see about maybe getting together on a podcast with him? And I was thinking, great, because if it goes well, then we'll take the credit, and if it goes badly, we'll just blame it on him. Either way, we'll have fun with it.
So wait a minute. So you were in Elmwood Park off of 46.
No, I was, well, my wife's family was for a while. Then they moved to
Okay.
Middle Elm Park. I was over on the Route 4 side. I was on the side
Oh,
that's
okay. You were on that
abutting
side.
Fairlawn,
All right.
right off of Route 4. Yeah.
So do you remember in Little Ferry on 46 there was a place called Harry's Corner?
Harry's,
Very
was
famous for egg
Frank's?
sandwiches, hot
Oh,
dogs.
yeah, right. Yeah, that's where the Iceman would put,
Yes.
yeah, hmm,
Right.
yeah,
So Harry's
yeah,
Corner was one of the most popular places. It's a quarter of a mile, half a mile away from a police station,
yeah,
and he would dump the bodies in garbage canisters that were sealed
yeah.
behind Harry's Corner.
I
And they
know.
wind up finding one, and people are like, "Oh my God, Harry's Corner's got dead bodies there," and they stopped going to the place. He's like, "I had nothing to do with it," and he went out of business because of it.
Aw, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
wild.
That's yeah, no, yeah, that's just amazing.
Yeah,
That's just amazing. Um, hey, you want to do some would you rather questions?
sure. I'm game
All
for
right,
anything.
let's. All right, cool, cool, cool. Um, all right. So I've actually asked this question to couple of different guests already, and people seem to love it. So I'm working with the algorithm here, Vince.
Yes, do it.
You know,
Let's get
but
clicks.
well, yeah, it's interesting though, because so would you flip a coin, Vince? Would you flip a coin if heads meant you instantly receive $10 billion,
Mhm.
but tails mean you die instantly?
I'm going to tell you this. So, and this rings true with my story. I've never done anything for money. So I pursued my law career and got to a point where I had to make certain decisions. And whenever my law office would suffer, and listen, I left what could have been a very lucrative job working for Frank
Yeah,
Luciano to go on my
sure.
own
Yeah.
because balancing the two careers and hiding it was too much. So I wound up getting rid of everything I had, sold everything I had to open my own office. I'll never forget the year I was down to my last. I remember exactly how much money I had in my account because it was sequential, $567.
Ouch.
And I would have to make a decision. Now I have to focus more on my law. When law took off, great. Now I can get back to comedy. Then there were times where law was kind of sustaining itself. Now I got to really focus on comedy because that's dying off. But the one thing I never thought about during that time is which one would make me rich, which one
Right,
would make me
because you're always
wealthy.
thinking about which one will sustain you and which one will make you happy.
Yes. So to me, to risk your life over money, you don't value life.
So Vince, I had exactly the same thought and exactly the same answer when I first went into it. It was really interesting. A lot of people replied, "Well, if I flipped a coin and I die instantly, I'm not experiencing any pain. But if I win it, I could do so much good with that 10 billion." And
But you're
like,
not
all right, well, that's an
experiencing
interesting.
life when you die.
Yeah,
That's the gift. That's the
it
reward.
is.
Is
Think
every
about the odds of us being here right now. I mean, just think, you can
yeah,
start with just, the swimmies making it to the egg to begin with, right? That, yay, hooray! But you go all the way back to, I mean, there was a time on Earth where there was like less than 10,000 humans because of a major cataclysmic event. So, and then all of those different things that had to happen with your ancestral heritage in order for you to be here at this point. Talk about an unbelievable, miracle. The
look,
miracle of Vince.
I tell people as a lawyer who does
Yeah.
personal injury, I see people that sustain significant injuries and then get a settlement.
Yeah.
And I don't know maybe but one or two of those people. So you're talking 5%. Let's go as high as 10% that would take the money every time over the injury. Whereas 9 out of 10
Oh,
people would be like, I want to be healthy again. I don't care about this
yep.
money.
Yep.
So,
And the other
and
thing is that, yeah, I'm sorry.
yeah, and I've met celebrities too that are doing really well financially. Doesn't mean happiness.
It doesn't mean happiness. Money does not buy you happiness. In fact, money could buy you misery, frankly. There's the possibility as well that money could bring more problems. Happiness has to no, but happiness has to come from within. You have to
Yeah,
find out what your love is, what your joy is, and hopefully you can live that. Not all of us have that luxury to be able to do that, right? Because sometimes you just got to just grind it out and deal with stuff. I've certainly, and I'm sure you certainly, as you said before, have had your share of grinding it out.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, I understand why someone would be instinctively want to take that flip,
Yeah,
but not
I
for
don't
me. It's
judge
just not.
anybody for it. Look,
I
there
wouldn't
are
judge
people
anybody. No,
that, want to
right?
have that financial comfort. I don't judge anybody. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a personal choice, but for me it's a no-brainer.
yeah. And how about this one?
All right.
Would you rather have a conversation with your past self or your future self, if you're given the option?
Oh, my past self.
Ah, yeah. What would you say to your past self, Vince?
Oh, I would look at certain decisions
Yeah,
that I made. Look, I don't live with regrets,
right.
but the one thing I would go back and tell my past self is you're going to endure some pain along the way,
That's good
but it's
advice,
going
Vince.
to be worth it. And
Yeah,
and that's,
that's
I
good.
think, the hardest thing to understand, um, is, and it always seems to be right before
Yeah,
something big happens,
yes,
that
I
you
agree.
wind up for whatever reason facing like this really bad hardship,
Yeah,
and then you're at the point of giving up, and then boom, something happens, and
absolutely. All the
it
time, Vince.
yeah, yeah.
You know?
So
And for anyone who's younger might be listening to this, that's a fact. You could be in the middle of something and it just seems like everything's collapsing around you. And, look, is it possible that that's going to be end all? Yeah, of course it's possible, but the odds are incredibly high that you're on the roller coaster and you're just down right here. You're about to go climbing back up, or you might just spike up, frankly.
yeah,
And then all this next thing you know, you're elated. So just try to enjoy the best moments as best you can and work through those troughs, work through those down moments, and understand that there is a light, there is a top moment that's coming again. It's a big
yeah,
deal.
yeah. Bad things are going to happen, and
It's
you
great
got to
advice.
learn how to deal with it. Don't let it dissuade you.
Yep.
Um, and I've been pretty good with it. I would say I got better with it as I got older.
Well, there's
Um,
no doubt about it. That's one of
yeah,
those things that you get with age and with experience, more experience and age. You get that kind of focus, that understanding, that perspective for sure,
yeah.
Vince.
So
That's a
that would be
great
the one
answer.
for
I
me.
love that answer.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Nice, Vince. Look at
Give me
you.
another one.
All right. All right. Would you rather live in a world this might get too serious. I don't want to get too serious here, so let's just try to keep it light. Or
All
if
right,
we're going to be serious, we'll make it quick. Would you
got it.
rather live in a world that we have now, or a world where there's no crime, but also no privacy comes with that?
No, I see. Here's the thing, John, and a lot of people are looking at the quote unquote world we have now and looking at it and saying, wow, things are so bad. And I tell people, we are living right now at this moment
I say
at
the
the
same thing.
greatest time in the history
Yes.
of the world.
Yeah.
We have more information at our fingertips than anyone's ever had. We have the answers in front of us, we just
Yeah.
ignore them. And when people say, yeah, but look at all the stuff going on, I'm like, no, man, listen. People that look at this country and say, oh my God, America's in the worst. Really? Worse than the Civil War? That was literally when everyone was shooting at each other for
Yeah.
real.
Yeah. And that
And
wasn't
people
that
say,
long ago. It really
no,
wasn't that long ago. Yeah.
really worse than the 60s when
Right.
anyone who had something to say was getting assassinated.
Yep.
Pretty much anyone. And
And you
you
put it
didn't have the access to guns the way you do now.
right.
And people back then were getting off left and right. And
Yeah.
was the government involved, not involved? Who knows? Because people are getting really close to people named Kennedy, Edgar Evers, or, Martin Luther King Jr. We could go on and on.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
tell people what's being highlighted right now, and again,
Yeah.
this goes back to the algorithm, is the
Yes.
negative, because Hollywood
Yeah.
and the media have come to learn the best way to get you to do things is through fear.
Yeah.
So you are
Unfortunately,
going to
that
be
is the case.
force
Yeah.
fed the negative. You're going to be force fed the fear because that's how they get you to donate money,
Yep.
buy this, you need that, you need. If you're not in fear, you're fine, you're comfortable. But the government and the media is always gonna put you in.
Yep.
And I saw it start when I was a kid with the news. Where you would something in your house potentially killing you. Find out after this commercial break. If it was that serious, you wouldn't put a commercial break before it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
I would. I would imagine that. So that's absolutely the case, and I would tell my kids when things are not maybe not going your way, just to kind of dovetail off of our prior conversation, that think about it in these terms. You're now living in a time which, as a human, you are now in the top 0.00000 whatever 1% of those who are living a a relatively peaceful, successful life because everyone else before they were struggling significantly. Now, look, a lot of us still struggle. I mean, I certainly had my troubles as a child and stuff like that.
We all
But
have.
even then, we still had a roof of some kind over our head. And there were ways that you could scrape some things together. There were times where you couldn't even do that. I mean, and that
No,
wasn't that long ago.
no. In our childhood, there was real worldwide poverty.
There was.
Real
Yeah.
worldwide poverty.
Yeah.
Now it exists because people let it exist.
Yeah.
Because there's
Unfortunately.
enough food and money to go around for it not to exist. So
Yeah.
governments and billionaires let it exist. But when we were growing up, there were just countries that couldn't figure it out. And it
Yeah.
was, a completely different set of circumstances than now. Now travel alone makes getting from one end of the world to the other too easy.
Yep. And
Whereas
global
when,
trade to be able
it
to
wasn't
move
like that at
products.
one point.
That's right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Good stuff. Hey, would you relive, Vince, your most embarrassing moment or forget your favorite memory, given those choices between the two?
I would relive my embarrassing moment 100 times over.
Right.
I
Why would you
I
want to
tell
forget something that
people,
means something? Yeah.
yeah, I and this is the best way for me to explain it, and I wish young people hear this podcast. So I competed as a power lifter in college,
Mm,
and the first meet I ever went into, I won my weight group,
nice.
and had success in meet after meet. The state championships when I went into New Jersey, I walked into that room and I was like, what is this? There's no drug testing here. This is a joke. This is
Oh,
ridiculous. And it got into my head because you could look around the room and be like, really, a polygraph? This is what we're trying to get.
yeah.
And I was so in my head, and I had my worst powerlifting meet ever.
It's gonna happen.
And after that meet, I learned more about what I needed to do the next meet than I did in all the ones that I won
Perfect answer.
combined.
Perfect answer.
Went into my next week meet. Not only did I win it, I won my weight category. I won best lifter, qualified. Somebody came over to me, wanted to qualify me for Olympic trials. New York Times Power Lifter of the Year, all these great, and it came off the heels of that loss.
That's awesome, Vince.
So I tell people those embarrassing moments are the teaching moments.
There's no doubt about it.
The wins are great,
Yep.
but the wins are built,
On
and
the failures.
anyone who's a winner,
Yep.
trust me, you lost at one point.
Oh,
No one's
of
always won.
course. In
Yeah,
fact, the ones who are willing to do and to fail over and over and over again are more apt to
yeah,
succeed because they're taking those extra steps to do that.
yeah,
Look, no one likes to fail, but if you could remember that failing, that's another good thing to say to your younger self as well, right? Which is similar, I think, to what you had said. Um, yeah, be willing to fail. Be willing to just go ahead and just fall on your face
yeah,
because you're learning something. With that, it's an education. Enjoy your education.
yep.
Vince
So
August.
yeah,
Vince
these are easy
August hanging out
questions.
here with Vince August and Dysfunctional Dialogue.
These are easy questions.
Yeah, that's okay. You want a difficult one?
Come on,
Would you rather have a third nipple or an extra toe?
I'll take the extra toe.
You know,
Because that one I could cut off easy. I'll just clip it
well,
off myself. I don't know
oh, I
where that
like
third
that.
nipple's going, but there's nowhere on my body that would look good. I can tell you that.
Well, that's the thing is like I was joking around with my sister in the very same kind of fashion on this, and I was like, but wait a second, you don't. I didn't say where it was going to be. I didn't
Yeah,
say the extra toe was going
exactly.
to be underfoot. It could be up over here. It could be
That's what I'm saying. I don't know where it's going to
yeah.
be.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. I think I just because a toe you could clip off would be like a little
Clip it
bump or
off.
something like that. But that nipple, I don't know if it'll always look if it's got like the whole part of the nipple. I don't know if I don't know if I
Don't know
want
where
that.
it's going to be. I didn't want to know. I'll take off the toe.
Would you rather be a kid until you turn 50, So like a little kid, or whatever, preteen, little kid, until you turn 50, or the appearance of a 30-year-old from your first birthday.
I'm going to tell you this. So the one thing I say about growing up
Yeah.
is you need those experiences. And,
Yeah.
God knows I had mortifying experiences during my teen years. Absolutely mortifying. I was an awkward teen. I went through a bout of depression.
Dude, sorry.
Being a kid for a long time, I think, is too much for anybody to endure.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's a good perspective, Vince. I like that.
Yeah, I think that's,
But what about the other side to that? You have the
30
appearance
at
of a
birth?
30-year-old at your first birthday. I mean, that's pretty weird, man.
Well, you know what? I don't think I knew that much at 30 anyway. So
You might as well have been a newborn.
yeah, might as well.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
And then you would slide down this hill, and the hill ended in a chain link fence with barbed wire on the top. So
like a strainer.
yeah. So what is the backstop? The fence. And the thing was, you wanted to slide down all the way to the fence because then you made it down the hill.
Yes.
So if you landed short of the fence, you failed. So the goal was hit the fence.